Hi everyone, welcome to the video on General Knowledge in the XAT exam. I'm Ravi Handa, founder of the website handagafunda.com, and this video is powered by Praxis Business School, Calcutta. It offers PGDM in marketing, finance, HR, operations, and data science, designed for the digital ecosystem. It's a great choice for students who score, let's say, between 80 and 90 in exams like CAT, XAT, and CMAT. So today, what we are going to do is, we are going to talk about the time distribution, especially in GK, the marking scheme and the cutoffs for GK, the question distribution as in on what topics can you expect questions in GK, and we'll have a look at XAT previous year paper. So we'll have a look at last year's papers, last year's questions, and obviously their answers, so that you get an idea of the difficulty level that gets asked. So, what is the time distribution in the XAT exam? Now, first of all, as you might know already, that it is a 3-hour exam. We have other videos which talk about the paper pattern and stuff. Part 1, which has quant, verbal, decision making, is 165 minutes. Part 2 is 15 minutes. And these 15 minutes are dedicated solely to the GK part. So there is nothing extra in it. These 15 minutes have to be given to the GK part, which means time for GK is fixed. Now, in this 165 minutes, you can shuffle around. You can attempt quant for, let's say, 100 minutes, decision making for 60, and verbal for 5 minutes, if you want to do that. But the time for GK is fixed at 15. Very similarly, when you talk about the marking scheme, that is also different for part 1 and part 2. In part 1, you get +1 for correct, -0.25 for incorrect, and there is also a penalty for the unattempted questions. This is for part 1, quant, verbal, and DM. But for GK, there is absolutely no negative marking. And that means you can guess as much as you can in the GK part. So this has been the pattern over the last few years, but please check the instructions once if that remains the same or not. Now, coming to as far as the question distribution is concerned, there are 4 sections. In the part 1, there will be 3 sections, which will be verbal ability, that will have 26 questions, decision making after verbal, which will have 21, and finally you will have quantitative aptitude, which will have 27 questions. What we are going to focus on today is part 2, which is for 15 minutes, general knowledge, and this has 25 questions. Now, before we go ahead and look at actually what these 25 questions consist of, you need to understand a very fundamental idea that GK is important only and only for XLRI. Also, for getting a call, GK plays no role. GK's role will come in once you get a call, once you are there at the interview. GK's role would be only in final selection and only for XLRI. Other colleges don't care about GK. But let's say if you are writing the XAT exam, you are doing it with the hope of getting into XLRI, and that is why GK becomes really, really important. And then, what about the topic distribution? Now, most of the questions, as you can see, are from current affairs. So, out of 25 questions, nearly half the paper, or 12 questions, can be expected from the current affairs part, 7 questions from the geopolitical news, and 5 from the business current affairs. So, that's more or less standard that half the paper would be based on current affairs. The other half, which is the static GK, that mostly deals with Indian history, Indian politics. You can expect a question on books and authors as well. Couple of questions on finance and economics, maybe some sort of financial treaties of the past. And then there are 4 generic questions which I didn't know what category to put it in. So sometimes there are questions on chemistry, sometimes on geography, sometimes pure sciences and stuff like that. So this would be the distribution. Now, if we'll now look at previous year's papers. Now, let's say if you're planning to get into XLRI, how much do you think will be required out of this 25? A good estimate is if you get 6 or 7 questions correct, that is good enough. So getting something like 1/4 of it correct is good enough. That's what you need. And well, since you can actually guess in the GK part because there is no negative marking, even if you do blind guessing, getting 1/4 of the questions correct should not be that difficult. And you should keep that in mind while you are attempting the questions. So, without further ado, let's have a look at last year's questions and see where you stand. The first question was, Which of the following countries does not border the Mediterranean Sea? Portugal, Greece, Spain, Italy, and France. So Greece, Spain, Italy, and France do. Portugal is on the left side. It faces the North Atlantic Ocean. The Mumbai Interbank bid rate, the MIBID, and the Mumbai Interbank offer rate, MIBOR, are the yardsticks which control which of the following financial markets. So MIBOR might not be that popular, but the London Interbank offer rate, that's something that you might have heard of, or the LIBOR. So LIBOR is essentially a rate at which banks lend to each other. So this is not the insurance, derivatives, commodities, or the forex market which you and I can participate in, but this is for the banks. So this is the call money market, or option E. Question 3. Name the city which was the capital of undivided Assam state immediately after the independence. Well, that was Shillong, which is now the capital of Meghalaya. Name the European country that signed a pact with India in March 2018 to deepen cooperation in the field of environment management. The deal also affirms commitment to fight climate change. Now, I had no idea about this particular answer or anything like that. This is a current affairs based question. So a geopolitical current affairs based question. I do remember something about the Paris Accord to do with climate change. So I would have guessed France, and France would have been right. So this is essentially the thought process that I would have followed. Two countries which India has inked agreements to enable successful mission called Gangayaan, that is slated for 2022. Again, I had no idea. The answer for this is France and Russia. The Kyoto Protocol, which was adopted in 1997 by several countries in Kyoto, Japan, focuses on which of the following aspects. Now this, I knew that the Paris Accord has kind of replaced the Kyoto Protocol, and the Paris Accord has to do with climate change. So Kyoto Protocol also had to do with climate change. Answer would be A here. This, I believe, was one of the easier questions. Russian leader whose name is synonymous with two reforms of Glasnost and Perestroika. So these were essentially reforms about open government and sharing more information in the public. See, because USSR wasn't really known to be an open government. The person who did this, Mikhail Gorbachev, was the guy. Question 8. Name the Indian saint who wrote Autobiography of a Yogi. Very popular book written by Paramhans Yogananda. Sequence these four rivers in terms of their point of meeting the Bay of Bengal from north to south, that is from Kolkata down to Kanyakumari. Okay, so this is difficult. You need to be really, really good in geography. But how I would attempt this question is, I know something called the KG Basin or the Krishna Godavari Basin, which means both of them should be close together. The KG Basin is where oil fields were found, ONGC was there, Reliance was there. So KG should be together. So where do I have KG together? So I have Krishna Godavari in options A and B. I also know that there is a water crisis between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka thanks to the Kaveri river's waters. So Tamil Nadu is kind of at the bottom. So Kaveri would be the last one. So now I know Kaveri is the last one. I also know that Krishna Godavari and Godavari Krishna need to be together. And that means Mahanadi should be at the top. So now I'm kind of confused between A and B, and I have no idea, to be honest, about A and B. The answer for this one is Godavari Krishna. So the answer is option B. But if you use your common sense, using stuff like Krishna Godavari Basin and you use stuff like Kaveri water crisis, then you would be down to two options and you will be able to make a much, much better guess. Question number 10. According to World Bank, which country is the highest recipient of remittances? So remittances is the money that people outside send back to the home country. Now, this has to be a numbers game. So we have a lot of people from big countries like India and China who are outside and they might be sending money back. Mexico, Philippines, Egypt, these are smaller countries, so they don't really stand a chance because the number of people who are outside, especially from India and China, is going to be really, really large. And also the Indians and Chinese who typically go outside are very well qualified and they do send a lot of money back. The answer for this, again, down to two options. I was India and China. The answer to this is actually India. Question 11. Of the 5 members listed below from the erstwhile royal families of Kerala, one was a nationally known painter and artist. In his name, every year the government of Kerala award people for their excellence in the field of art and culture. Name this painter. Raja Ravi Verma is clearly a very well-known painter. I knew about him. I honestly speaking did not know about the others. So this became relatively easy for me because of lack of much knowledge about the others. I would have marked Raja Ravi Verma and that would have been correct. Then, of the 5 people listed below, 4 are managing directors and 1 is the chairman of State Bank of India. Chairman of State Bank of India used to be Arundhati Bhattacharya. Rajneesh Kumar became the next chairman. Very current affairs question. This should have been answered by everyone. Easy question. Option A is the answer here. Question 13. Horlicks brands of GlaxoSmithKline has been recently bought by another mega FMCG brand. This was again all over the news last year. Hindustan Unilever is the answer here. Another one of those easy questions. To get to those 6 and 7, you need to answer 4, 5 easy questions. Well, this was one of those 4, 5 easy questions. Question 14. Which of the following countries is not a member of the Union of European Football Association? Now, I don't know all UEFA members, but what I do know is that Uzbekistan is just above Afghanistan. So if Uzbekistan is just above Afghanistan, that means it's in Asia. So it's unlikely that it would be a member of the UEFA, making Uzbekistan as the correct answer. Again, no knowledge of UEFA, but by a basic knowledge of geography, I was able to solve this question. So these are the kind of techniques that you will need to use when you are solving these. And since there is no penalty for wrong answers, you can make guesses here and get option E correct. Question 15. Which of the mobile service providers is going to launch GigaFiber broadband? Was all over the news. Probably the easiest question of the 15. GeoFiber or the Geo GigaFiber is the one that we are looking for. What is the common name for acidic combination of nitric acid and hydrochloric acid that can actually dissolve metals like gold and platinum? So if you come from a chemistry background, or maybe even if you remember the 11th, 12th chemistry, you would know that the answer is Aquaregia. If you don't really remember 11th, 12th chemistry, you can't do much about it. Question 17. Viacom is a popular entertainment network of India. Which of these channels does not belong to Viacom? So I didn't really know whether it would be Colors or Nickelodeon, but what I do know is that Disney is a big global brand. They might have a tie-up with someone, but belonging completely to an Indian entity or Viacom is highly unlikely. So Disney is their own conglomerate. They own Marvel Studios is something that they own. Fox Searchlight is something that they have acquired. And ESPN is a network that they own. So Disney International is a conglomerate in itself, not a part of Viacom, making option E as the answer here. Let's look at question 18. Republic of Armenia is a UN member state, but is not recognized by one of the UN member states. Identify the state. So which country does not recognize the Republic of Armenia? Again, this was in the news last year. If you read about it, you would know that the answer here is indeed Pakistan. Question 19. The name of this dance and the name of the community that performs this dance is the same. It's a Rajasthani folk dance, and the intricate dance movements mimic the movement of snakes. Which dance are we talking about? So maybe because I am from Rajasthan, I know about this. Very easy question for me. For the people of Rajasthan, or probably most of North India, Kalbelia dance is the answer here. Another one of those sitters. Which of the following countries is the largest source of imports to India as on 31st March 2018? So again, this I believe is really, really easy. Anything that you see in India, or rather for the world also, China is the manufacturing hub. Most people import most of their goods from China. So for India also, it's kind of obvious that they will import a lot from China. The only other one where could have been some confusion is Saudi Arabia, because we get a lot of oil from them. USA no, Pakistan no, Switzerland no. So China and Saudi Arabia might cause some confusion, but very clearly China would be way ahead because of the large amount of manufacturing goods would be there. So even if you were confused, I think this is something that you should have got, that option C, China, as the correct answer here. Question 21. I had no idea about this one. Which of the following is a winter game, very similar to ice hockey and often considered the national sport of Russia? I used to think drinking vodka is the national sport of Russia, but clearly that isn't in the list. Bupkashi or Buskashi is something that I have seen even in Indian movies related to Afghanistan. So I would have ruled out E, but among the other four, I had no idea. The answer for this, however, is Bandy or option B. Question 22. Which of the following liquids demonstrates a convex meniscus when confined within a glass tube? Now, this is something, it is kind of like chemistry and physics or science combined, but this one, even if you have a basic knowledge, should have been correct. Now, what does a convex meniscus mean, first of all? Now, if you put water in a tube, it becomes like this. So it becomes something like this, which will make it concave. Convex would mean that it is protruding outside. Now, protruding outside, I have seen in a thermometer that it protrudes outside. So it is in a glass tube. A thermometer is being talked about. And what do you put in a thermometer? You put mercury in a thermometer, making option E as the answer here. Question 23. Arrange these historical events in the order of their occurrence. So among these, I knew that the permanent settlement of Bengal was the oldest one because it happened in the late 1700s. That's essentially the entry of Britishers into India. I knew about the Rowlatt Act was somewhere in the early 1900s. These were the two that I knew about. So we are talking about late 1700s, probably the oldest one, because everything else, the other acts would be something which were introduced by the Britishers. So they have to come after Britishers entered India and after they established their presence. So it has to be after 3. So after 3 being the first one. So now I'm down to two options, A and E, because both of them have 3 when the Britishers established it. And I know that the Rowlatt Act was early 1900s, 1919 to be precise, so that is 4. The other two events, so that is 1 and 2, they actually happened in the 1800s. The Ryotwari system, which was essentially a system of Britishers and then Zamindars and then peasants, this was established first in early 1800s. The Vernacular Press Act came later, making the answer as 3124. Now, I don't expect all of you to know the exact dates and answer this, but you should have an idea that broadly the permanent settlement of Bengal was the first thing which led Britishers into India. The Rowlatt Act was in early 1900s, which kind of started the Satyagraha movement. So these two, you should have an idea, making it option A or E as your answer. Among them, you could have guessed it or you would have known that option A is correct. Question 24, Article 356. So this, I believe, if you have been reading the newspaper, you will know that Article 356 relates to the President's rule given in option E. And the last one was name the 3 sessions of Parliament. So we have a budget session where the budget is presented. So we have budget session here, budget session here. I'm down to these two options, B and C. There is no such thing as a Diwali session. We would have never heard of it. Also, the Diwali session would make it a religious activity, so we cannot have it with respect to one religion. Although current government might think otherwise, but still we do not have anything called the Diwali session, ruling out option B, making option C, budget session, monsoon session and winter session as an answer. So these were the 25 questions which were asked in XAT last year. Hope you got at least 7-8 of them right. And with this, I would like to wrap up this video. If you have any further questions about this, you can email us on handagafunda@gmail.com. You can have a look at our XAT crash course, which is available on handagafunda.com/XAT. It will really help you prepare for XAT. It will really help you to get into XLRI. Do check out the website of Praxis Business School, that is praxis.ac.in. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, comment on this video so that you can get future updates. Thank you. Hope to see you soon.